Welcome back, friends, to the Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast. Join us as we navigate through becoming to being all we were created to be. I am your host, Antea Evelina, and I am excited about today's journey. Well, thank you so much for tuning back into the Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast. I am back home and in the studio. How are you guys doing? I pray that this episode finds you doing well and at peace. Well, the title of today's episode is Practice. And every time I hear the word practice, I always think about Allen Iverson and what they call a rant about it's just practice. And then I think about Kobe Bryant and how he spent hours upon hours practicing, and he was known for his work ethic and how hard he practiced. And the man is legendary. When I looked up the definition of the word practice, the very first word was the word action. And I felt like a sigh of relief just because the word practice is intimidating, because you think about doing something strenuously over and over again. But really, it's all about taking the first step. The subtitle to this episode is Act Now, just because it's really hard for us to get started. I believe that God gave us the ability to dream so that we can wake up and do it. He gave us the ability to imagine and have an imagination so that we can get ideas about how to begin and to start to accomplish those things. I think that we take that ability to dream and to imagine for granted. I always like going new places and finding inspiration because it fuels my imagination. And then I come back home and I'm able to create wonderful things because I was inspired by what I saw. So I have this saying, failure to launch. And I just recently learned that it really was created with young adults in mind. But I really believe that it's no age group when it comes to failure to launch. Failure to launch could just be failure to get started on anything in life, no matter what that is. Failure to launch has the following symptoms: poor work ethic, low distress tolerance, low levels of motivation, low levels of persistence, high expectation of others without reciprocating, failure to take responsibility, lack of vision, lack of skills needed, and narcissism. Now, I'm sure some of you are familiar with the saying, practice make perfect. And what I've learned is the whole point of that was to convey a message that if you consistently do some type of activity or exercise over and over again, you'll gain proficiency. And I always say that it's not about perfection, it's about completion. In order to complete a task, you have to start a task. And I always say, write it down. The Bible even tells us to write the vision down and to make it plain so that man may see it and run with it. Once you write it down, it becomes your roadmap to success. And I know that sounds cliche and it probably sounds corny, but it's so imperative that you get it down on paper. I have a journal that I've had for several years. I would say probably a decade. And it's amazing how going back and reading some of the things that God had revealed to me, whether I just got quiet and alone with him, or if I woke up out of my dream and wrote something down, but it was enlightening to me because it was so significant to my life even now, what I wrote down 7 years ago. And so at the time, I might not have been prepared or even ready to begin to walk that out in my life. But even in doing the Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast, I have taken content from that very journal where I wrote things down years ago. And it's almost as if it was a beautiful quilt that God had just woven together and is just gradually coming together and showing me all these intricate details of my life. Here's a fun fact about quilting. I learned that one of the world's largest quilts took 11 years to make. The most recent world's largest quilt took 2 years to make. And then I also learned that some quilts were made out of necessity, but others were made to actually convey a message. So they say that people would put messages into quilts. They put messages into quilts for slaves to be led to freedom. So, friend, what is that thing that you're supposed to act on right now in your life? I'll be very transparent. This season that I'm in my life, I have experienced all new paths, all new journeys. Things are so new. And the Bible tells us that He makes all things new, and we embrace that. But when you get to that path and it's unfamiliar, and there may even be overgrowth, or you may have to charter a new path, one of the scriptures that I put out before me before I started on this journey was from Proverbs 31:25. It says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity. She laughs without fear of her future." And I can think of a hearty laugh, not a cute laugh, but a hearty ha 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 ha. Like I am going on my journey and I'm going to do it. And I have strength and I have dignity. And I know what I am supposed to do. All right, friends, I'm going to leave you with this quote. Knowledge has no value unless you put it into practice. So I hope that you are getting something out of the Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast. Make sure that you are subscribed and you are sharing with your friends. Until next time, be a blessing. Peace.